Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. In today's video I'm going to be presenting a settings tutorial. This is my best VR graphics guide to date following Sim Update 5 and Hotfix 2. This is specifically for the HP Reverb G2 and I'm using an RTX 3080 with an i9-10900K. If your PC spec is lower than mine, I recommend that you try my settings first and you work your way down slowly. And here you can see I'm a passenger in one of my favourite aircraft, the TBM 930. Thanks to one of my subscribers, Led Zeppelin, for letting me know this has been released. And it's available now at flightsim.to. I'll leave a link in the video description for you. So thanks for that. It's great to be back in the TBM. Okay guys, let's get the best VR graphics guide started then, shall we? So jumping straight into the PC settings, you can see here I've got my HAGs turned off and I've got the variable refresh rate turned off. I always recommend to turn HAGs off. Based on my experience with both the 2060 Super and the 3080, I found that HAGs turned off was always much smoother. And next we've got the game mode, which I also recommend to turn off. The next thing we're going to do is increase virtual memory. This is specifically for people who have got systems with less than 32 GB of RAM, and this may help stop crash to desktops, so you might want to give it a try. The first thing you need to do is go to the Windows search bar, type and open View Advanced System Settings. And under the Advanced tab, you click Settings, and next you click the Advanced tab, and make sure you click on Background Services under Processor Scheduling. The next thing you need to do is customize your virtual memory use. Here you're going to increase it. First of all, unclick Automatically Manage Paging File Size for all drives. And go ahead and click on C drive and click on Custom Size. And depending on how much RAM you have, this is where you have to type in the equivalent in megabytes. So for 16 GB of RAM, it would be 1600/384 for example. And finally click OK and restart your computer. I don't need to use this specific setting because I have 64 GB of RAM, but you may find it useful, so have a go at it and see what happens. And next up we've got the graphics settings. Here you can see my OpenXR developer tool, and I've actually unchecked the custom render scale, so it's at 100% and the motion reprojection is disabled. I find it much clearer set like this. I'm still using the most recent NVIDIA graphics card driver, 471.41. And here you can see my latest NVIDIA 3D settings. I have changed these since Hotfix 2. You can see the settings as I scroll down, but there are a few I'm going to highlight here. The first one being texture filtering. I've changed that to performance. Texture filtering is switched on, threaded optimization is off, vertical sync is on, and virtual reality pre-rendered frames I've set it to 2. So try these and see how they work for you. And next up we have the Sim VR settings. First of all, I want to show you my VR traffic settings. As you can see, I have the real-time and online traffic turned on. I have the nameplates turned off just because I find them distracting, but if I fly with a group I have them turned on. I have all my settings under airport life and land and sea traffic set at 85. It seems these settings are affected by the bandwidth, and since I've got fast internet I set them at 85. These settings are a big deal to me because I don't want to fly across the world and not see any other vehicles, or land at airports and see only a few planes and workers. So the traffic to me is very important both on land and sea. And I have AI generic plane models turned on, multiplayer generic plane models turned off, and ultra traffic variety. And next we have my data settings. I have everything turned on in terms of online functionality, Bing Maps, photogrammetry, real life world air traffic, live weather, and multiplayer. You can see there my current data consumption. I just deleted my rolling cache file yesterday. I've got no data limitation and no data bandwidth usage limit. Since Hotfix 2 I have been flying with my rolling cache off, however I've turned it back on. The reason why is when you enable rolling cache to a minimum of about 2 GB, it really helps decrease the blurry ground textures, and it does help stop the pop-up happening when trees loading in the distance. You can see I've got my cache limit set at 25 GB. I also recommend assigning the rolling cache path to the main Microsoft Flight Sim folder, most likely in your C drive. And next we come to my VR graphics settings. Here you can see I've got the render scaling set at 85, I've got the anti-aliasing set at TAA, terrain level of detail I've pushed up to 125, terrain vector data is set to ultra, buildings is set to high, trees set to high, grass and bushes set to high, objects level of detail set at 125, volumetric cloud set at high, text resolution set at ultra, anisotropic filtering set at 16 times, texture supersampling set at 8x8, texture synthesis set at ultra, water wave set at high, shadow map set at 1536, terrain shadow set at 1024, contact shadow set at high, windshield effect set at high, ambient occlusion set at off, reflection set to high, light shaft set to medium, bloom is switched off, and glass cockpit refresh rate is set to high. So remember, these settings are my personal preference. However, I do believe they are the best settings I've found so far for what I'm after. The increased settings for the terrain and the object's level of detail just pushes that clarity even further as well, but it still stays really smooth without the motion reprojection on. The reason why I've got the texture settings set so high is because it helps make objects look smoother in the distance and in the cockpit. I also have the shadow settings set quite high because it helps with the contrast, leading to more depth in the landscapes. I have turned off ambient occlusion. I am still playing with the idea of using it on low or medium, so it does hit the performance quite hard, that's why I left that out. So those are my VR settings in the sim. Have a go yourself and see how it goes. I'd say the most important thing to think about when you're doing these settings is the fact that everyone's got a different system. You may have a lower spec than mine. Like I said at the beginning, try mine and then work your way down. But it's really about personal preference. Some people like to have ultra settings for their clouds and high ambient occlusion. Others like to have the reflections turned off. There's lots of different reasons why you might want to have different settings. I noticed a lot of people having problems with the reflections. I have noticed that a little bit, but the majority of the time the reflections are good, and I find that pushing the reflection settings higher makes them look better. But that's just my experience using my PC. I think some things to think about are start with my settings and work your way down. Think about what you personally want out of the performance. There's always going to be a balance between performance and graphics. I don't think that's going to change until they've optimized it more later in the year. So spend time thinking about what looks good for you. But also spend time thinking about what feels good too, in terms of movement and motion and fluidity. You want the sim to be running well enough to feel the turbulence, to feel the subtle differences in movement, just to add to that immersion. I'm sure you've watched countless videos of these kind of tutorials, and you'll probably notice that different people have different settings, and that is because at the end of the day we all have different setups, and it's really important to understand that what works well for me might not work well for somebody else. So I would never say that somebody else's settings are wrong. I would just advise you guys to watch these videos and use them as a starting point, as a guide to get you guys on the right track. I hope this tutorial helps you guys dial in your own settings, leading to a better experience in VR in the sim. I think it's an amazing achievement what they've done. The Hotfix 2 isn't perfect. I know there's lots of other issues going on, and I will be making some more videos soon looking at some of these things more closely. Anyway guys, as always, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed my content. I really appreciate you watching. Also, please let me know in the comments below how you find these settings. Are they working for you? Do you have any alternative settings that you want to recommend to others? I'm always keen to hear from you guys as subscribers, and I really hope you guys are starting to enjoy the sim more in VR as time goes by, as the updates come out. I think the next big thing is going to be August 24th when World Update 6 comes out. I'm really excited about the upcoming fixes, but I'm also really excited about flying around Germany, since I spent a lot of time there in my younger years. Please also remember to smash that like button. It helps with the rankings and it helps other people see this video, which hopefully helps them in turn in their VR experience. Anyway guys, I hope this video helps in some way, and I'm looking forward to making more soon. In the meantime, take care and stay safe.